Hello, hello, and welcome to another bite-sized episode of the Crypto Valley Association podcast. Let's discover together the latest trends of this turbulent space and try to shed some light on the mysteries it contains. Here with us today is Hubert Ritzdorf from PWC Switzerland, the technical lead Smart Contract Assurance. I'm looking forward to learning about how one of the big four accounting firms is getting further involved in blockchain technology. So let's dive straight in to the hidden world of smart contracts. Hubert, great having you with us today. How have you been since we last met at the World Economic Forum? I feel like the world has turned a bit upside down since then.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. Very happy to be here. I've been quite well, luckily. I hope so have the listeners been.
Oh, yes, I hope so too. And I mean, we've been talking about global adoption for some time, and I'm just surprised that the world has taken more to the volatility of the crypto markets rather than all the other benefits of this industry. Great. So to kick this off, maybe you can tell our listeners a bit about yourself and what first raised your awareness to this sector.
Yes, so I kind of got into the whole crypto market in 2012. So at the time I was writing my master thesis at ETH Zurich, and so there was another thesis going on kind of next to me, physically speaking, and that was quite interesting, and that was about Bitcoin double spending and some network measurements for that and so on and so on. And yeah, so that really piqued my interest. That's how I initially got involved. At the time, one Bitcoin cost $5.
Wow.
But still, $5 felt like a lot, because what could you even do with a Bitcoin at the time? So yeah, the kind of markets were slowly starting to pop up. Then we did some measurements on like how certain Bitcoin transactions propagate in the network. I found that really interesting. Afterwards started my PhD at ETH Zurich, then from time to time worked with different blockchains and blockchain technologies, looked at Bitcoin, looked at Ethereum. And after I was done with my PhD, was one of the co-founders of Chain Security. Mm-hmm. So the startup was, which was also an ETH spin-off, was focused on smart contract and blockchain security. And we were trying to help people to secure their smart contracts and generally their blockchain-related projects. And then at the beginning of this year, Chain Security joined PWC, and now we have kind of a joint offering here with smart contract and other services at PWC.
Okay, wow, that's great. And so what has kept you here today? I hope it's not just the fact that Bitcoin has gone from $5 to 20 and then back down to 10, but what keeps you here today?
Yes, so it's really the interest. It's the technology, because the technology is so powerful. I think, so initially Bitcoin was already quite impressive with what it was able to achieve. Mm-hmm. And you have this global network where you can reach this really rough consensus, and you can really generate some strong properties, but you need a lot of things to go right. And sometimes small mistakes can have like really big impacts, which is something that's always super interesting, because it depends on all the small details. And then as the space progressed, what was really, I mean, as already mentioned, got my interest were smart contracts, because people who have ever implemented a distributed system and thought about like the technical complexities of implementing such a system, they know how complicated it is. They know how many things have to be solved under the hood. And nowadays you can write a smart contract in like 10 lines of code or like 50 lines of code or something like that. And it's doing such a magical and powerful thing, and you can do like worldwide transactions, and that's really what has kept me, this technological advancement and the technological capabilities.
Wow, yeah, that global element I think is truly fantastic. So, and speaking about global, right? Tell us maybe a bit more about PwC's involvement within blockchain technology and the cryptocurrency space as a whole, and maybe the role that they in particular play within this growing industry?
Yes, so it's quite interesting because PwC is involved from different angles. So of course, as a financial auditor, PwC encounters that more and more companies have cryptocurrencies on their balance sheet. So that's something that PwC has to deal with, and that's where PwC has developed tools to deal with this and to do the accounting correctly and to make sure that the accounting shows what it's supposed to show, in the sense of, like, you cannot fake your balances and all of these things. And so that's the one side. Then of course, especially in the beginning, but still now, there's the whole legal and regulatory side. So where in the beginning it was quite unclear what do these tokens mean, who can trade them, how can they be traded, and so on. How can all of this fit into the existing legal frameworks? Then after ICOs came STOs, and then came like let's say more established companies that got involved. And then finally there's the more technical side. There's the field of cryptocurrency custody. So how do you store correctly and securely, where PwC issues kind of these certificates which ensure that the service provider does correctly store and has proper key management on all of these things. And then there's our department, the Smart Contract Assurance practice. So we try to make sure that what you code is what you wanted to code. So we try to protect and increase trust, which is also the overall kind of PwC vision, because this blockchain space has the ability to really build these kind of trustworthy systems, but often you need to be technically very strong to understand whether you can trust it or not. So like you need to read all the smart contracts and before you invest in them, or you need to understand like the underlying blockchain technology and so on. And that's why we think it can be so powerful to have kind of this stamp of quality, so that you say like, okay, this smart contract has been checked. The business model is actually sound. It's legally sound. The keys are being managed properly. Like, because if you invest into cryptocurrencies, or if you invest into some tokenized economy, then of course you want your funds to be safe, and that's what we're working on, that we can increase this trust that your funds are actually safe.
Great, yeah, and it's very, very important, right? The security element of all that as well. And maybe you can tell us more about the importance of accounting within this space.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, as was mentioned, accounting is of course the traditional business of PwC, and is still a very important business, and that's something that has changed a lot over the years, and will probably change a lot more in the coming years, because on the one hand side we have all these cryptocurrencies, and we have new requirements from that side. On the other side, we have generally companies that are way more globalized, way more globally connected, have significantly more complicated accounting structures, and have subsidiaries and so on, where they have internal settlements and so on. And that's from the other side, that's of course something where blockchain and distributed ledgers can potentially help. And that's something that we are also looking at with customers, how they can use these technologies to improve their accounting infrastructure, to improve their accuracy, to improve their speed.
Yeah, accuracy is important as well, right? And within that, PwC having over 250,000 employees and offices all over the world, really in 4 corners of the globe. Are you looking to implement any blockchain technology within internally? As I know that you're helping a lot of big firms and smaller ones to adopt this technology. Is PwC internally trying to do something with this?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And so actually we are exploring some ideas. Obviously there's nothing public yet, but we are exploring some ideas. And I think it's something that can potentially provide a lot of benefit also for PwC. I mean, PwC is also to some degree a trust-based business, right? So the reputation of PwC is very powerful, and hence the goal of the company and its employees is also to protect this reputation and to uphold it and to deliver the kind of service that our customers expect. So that's something where to, on the one hand, provide the transparency to the customer, and on the other hand, also to provide the internal quality standards. That's something where distributed ledgers can definitely help, and that's something that we are exploring. But unfortunately, I cannot provide any concrete comments yet.
No, of course. Well, I look forward to seeing those developments in the future and following this futuristic approach. You know how much we in this space love to try to predict the future. I wish I was a bit better at it. If not, I would have bought Bitcoin at $5. But where do you see the development of smart contracts in the future?
Yeah, quick side note on that. If it makes you feel any better, I bought Bitcoin at $5, but I bought them for the university, so the university could do the measurements and not for myself personally. So maybe that provides some relief for you. But so where do I see the future going? So especially in terms of smart contracts, we have seen a lot of change. So we are now helping people secure the smart contracts for the past 3 years. And we have seen a dramatic change. The industry has kind of gone from the early stages to something that's fairly professional now. We're talking to international banks that are getting involved. We're talking to really big players that are getting involved. So I think what has really changed is the kind of the precision and the exact nature of it. So, and that's something that's also really core to our work, because in the beginning, I don't want to discredit anyone, but there was, of course, a lot of trial and error, and there were a lot of mistakes being made. And now that the stakes are higher, these mistakes cannot be made anymore. So something that we're working on quite intensively is also together with our clients to make sure that their specifications are correct and precise. Just last week, we had a major client where we were working with them, and their specification is not quite as precise as it should be because it contains some ambiguities. And our job is normally to check that what's written in the specification is correctly implemented in the code. But of course, if the specification leaves open points or is not quite clear, then that leaves room for errors in the code or leaves room for misunderstandings for customers. So for us, it's been crucial to improve these specifications and thereby improve the quality in the space and also improve the trust that customers can have in these projects.
Yes, I agree. And success is in the details, right? And I think it's important to be able to really go into the details within smart contracts, so there are no loopholes or problems that occur within them. So yeah, thank you for that. That side's very insightful. And I also know that you're a special coach for blockchain at Swiss. Maybe would you like to tell us a little bit more of that role and the role the government has to play in the development of this ecosystem?
Yeah, so InnoSwiss is the Swiss Federal Agency for Innovation, and it supports startups by providing them coaching, and I'm one of these coaches, and I'm coaching around the topics of blockchain and smart contracts, and they have helped multiple startups how they could use blockchain, how they maybe shouldn't use it also, what kind of platforms they could and should build upon, how they can use smart contracts. and also kind of the education side of it, because especially in this space, there is not so much experience around as in other spaces. Like, of course, there's people who have been around for a while, but they're not so common. So there's a lot of kind of early mistakes still being made because new people are constantly getting into this space and there's not so many senior people guiding them. So what I try to do as an InnoSwiss coach is I try to help with these early mistakes so that they are not being repeated too much. And so yeah, that's been a really interesting thing, and I've been really happy that I had this opportunity. I'm really thankful to InnoSwiss that they gave me this opportunity just to kind of give back a little bit. And on the other side, when we talk about governments and their role in the space, I think it comes in two ways. I think the one side is kind of the enabling side, where they allow the space to flourish in some way and don't block it in any way. And the other side, and I think that's the one that we'll see in the future more and more, is kind of the side where legal requirements make it necessary to use distributed ledger technologies. And that's of course something that we are not necessarily demanding from the government, but I think that's something that will come around eventually for certain areas, that the strong requirements just make it necessary to show this transparency and to show this level of security. So that's how I think government fits into the picture in general.
Great. And yeah, I agree that the government has to play an important role. And I think we have the good fortune, being in Switzerland, that they are very much open to this innovation. Even though they may be a bit slow at times, they are open to it and they want to be able to create something that is sustainable for the future alongside corporation and thought leaders like yourself. Great. So maybe to finish it off here, Hubert, how about giving our listeners a personal glimpse of the future of this industry as a whole, and some closing words?
Yeah, so actually I'm quite excited for the future, because while we talk about distributed ledgers and blockchain and so on a lot, to me there's a bigger picture here. And the bigger picture is that it's kind of the next step in digitalization, because we all experience like everything becoming digital, then things being way more connected over the internet. And now we have these companies that are highly connected, but they are also highly distributed. And we have these markets that are highly connected, but they're also highly distributed, and they have all of these trust issues and so on and so on. And we have trust as such a central role in so many different markets. So I think the logical next step is that we have these distributed systems, and to be able to work and trade in these distributed systems, we need these technologies. We need these technologies to reach consensus. We need these technologies to have the necessary level of assurance. And in that sense, we're kind of seeing the natural next step that we have seen with like computers and internet. And now we're seeing like the highly distributed systems. And yeah, in that sense, I'm excited in the possibilities and what it could bring for the future.
Awesome. Thank you for those insights. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to a digital world supported by smart contracts and everything that you mentioned. So awesome. Thank you. And if you enjoyed hearing this short conversation with Hubert, feel free to check out more on our website, cryptovalley.swiss, where we host plenty of events, educational content, and even provide information on how you can join our growing community. So thank you once again, Hubert. Stay tuned, stay safe, and until next time from the Crypto Valley in Switzerland.